legend. They say they real recognize this might take a second. I feel niggas vulnerable, it's like they ain't protected. They hate your style and jot it down, and so I can't respect it. It's just me trying to bridge to get that part I don't connect with. I mean, that's word up to my right on that internet shit. Information the devil left to get into that shit.
Let's dive into today's topics.
Quick to check it.
Let's do, my ladies. So you guys, we got a lot to cover today. I wasn't gonna do anything. I've been kind of feeling a little under the weather, but that's okay because our Trinant products are in the process of coming. If you guys stay through this video, we'll tell you more about that. It is our sponsor, so we are thanking our sponsor in advance before we jump in. You guys, if you are returning, you know what to do. Get the biz out the way. Go ahead and smash that like, share, and subscribe, and go ahead and start and get the conversation started. I've heard that the commenting, liking, and all of that helps trigger the algorithm. And what's the most important thing, Mary Beth?
The most important thing is to engage with us. We love hearing your thoughts and questions, so feel free to drop them in the comments. All right, Regina, where are we starting?
All right, so we are starting with the meeting in the Oval Office with President Bukele and President Trump. So you want to set that up for us, my lady?
Absolutely. President Bukele recently met with President Trump in the Oval Office. The meeting covered several topics, including bilateral relations and economic cooperation. There was also some buzz around the questions asked during the press briefing. What's your take on it, Regina?
Well, why don't we go ahead and watch it with our viewers? We've already seen it once, but I'm going to hold my commentary because I know our viewers are dying to get into this. And the reason we're reporting this, I had released it as shorts, really, and I wasn't going to report on it. And now that this Maryland senator is claiming that he's going to travel to El Salvador if President Bukele will not meet with him here in the United States while he's on his visit. Let's jump in. Are we jumping in face first or feet first?
Let's jump in feet first. Ready when you are.
Let's do it.
To ask President Bukele to help return the man who your administration says was mistakenly deported. The man who was mistakenly deported to El Salvador.
Well, let me ask Pam, would you answer that question?
Sure, President. First and foremost, he was illegally in our country. He had been illegally in our country. And in 2019, two courts, an immigration court and an appellate immigration court, ruled that he was a member of MS-13 and he was illegally in our country. Right now, it was additional paperwork had needed to be done. That's up to El Salvador if they want to return him. That's not up to us.
All right, let's pause it right there. So let's take all that in and say it's not up to us. It's up to El Salvador. And they're about to explain it. Pam Bondi will explain first. Then the gentleman behind her will explain again. And then Senator Marco Rubio will explain again. And then finally, we're going to get to President Bukele and hear what he has to say. So I can't believe this is even being drug out further. And I'm really disappointed in the mainstream media. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at this guy's record, too. We're not just going to take their word for it. We're going to look and see what we have. What do you think, my lady?
Get down and see what's really going on.
Yeah, I agree. Let's break it down and see what's really good.
Any affiliation, and a federal judge called his deportation wholly lawless.
So when he originally in 2019 received that deportation, what was it for? So the Biden administration came in and revoked that, right?
Yes, the Biden administration reversed many Trump-era immigration policies. In Garcia's case, the controversy revolves around the legality and justification of his deportation, especially since a court had previously ruled in his favor due to threats from MS-13.
Which court ruled in his favor and what year?
A federal judge in the Ninth Circuit ruled in Garcia's favor in 2019, blocking his deportation due to threats from MS-13.
So that was under Trump's administration. What changed?
Under the Trump administration, despite the court ruling, Garcia was deported. The Biden administration's changes in immigration policy generally aimed to offer more protections and review deportation cases. In Garcia's case, The focus is on whether he was given fair legal process.
Okay, I don't care about all that because he's not a citizen of the United States, so there's nothing fair. He didn't come here the right way, so there's no fairness involved for him. He's not a citizen of the United States. He needs to seek fairness in his own home country, which would be El Salvador. I don't know of any country that's going to take him, right? And why is he so scared of MS-13, supposedly? El Salvador is now the safest country when it was the murder capital of the world. So why would this man fear his home country so badly? Was he an informant? Did he used to be a part of MS-13? Because I believe that there's photographs of him with the MS-13 gangs and tattoos and all of that. Is there not?
There are reports and photos showing alleged gang affiliations, but he denies being a member. Some claim he provided information to authorities, but there's no clear confirmation. The fear of returning could stem from past ties or threats from gang members who view former associates or informants as targets.
All right, let's finish watching this.
Supreme Court ruled, President, that if, as El Salvador wants to return him, this is international matters, foreign affairs, if they wanted to return him, we would facilitate it, meaning provide a plane.
So if President Bukele wanted to return his own citizen, then we would provide the vessel for the transportation, is what Attorney General Bondi is saying.
You are doing a great job.
Thank you.
If you just can also respond to that question, because it's asked by CNN and they always ask it with a slant, because they're totally slanted because they don't know what's happening. That's why nobody's watching them. But would you answer that question also, please?
Yes, gladly. So, as Pam mentioned, there's an illegal alien from El Salvador. So, with respect to you, he's a citizen of El Salvador. So, it's very arrogant even for American media to suggest that we would even tell El Salvador how to handle their own.
Thank you. The hubris of that. They are a sovereign country, and the hubris of coming in and telling them what to do with their own citizens.
Citizens as a starting point. As 2 immigration courts found that he was a member of MS-13. When President Trump declared MS-13 to be a foreign terrorist organization, that meant that he was no longer eligible under federal law, which I'm sure you know, you're very familiar with the INA, that he was no longer eligible for any form of immigration relief in the United States. So he had a deportation order that was valid, which meant that under our law, he's not even allowed to be present in the United States and had to be returned because of the foreign terrorist designation. This issue was then, by a district court judge, completely inverted, and a district court judge tried to tell the administration that they had to kidnap a citizen of El Salvador and fly him back here. That issue was raised to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said the district court order was unlawful, and its main components were reversed 9-0 unanimously, stating clearly that neither Secretary of State nor the president could be compelled by anybody to forcibly retrieve a citizen of El Salvador from El Salvador, who again is a member of MS-13, which, as I'm sure you understand, rapes little girls, murders women, murders children, is engaged in the most barbaric activities in the world. And I can promise you, if he was your neighbor, you would move right away.
So you don't plan to ask for
Supreme Court's asking to.
Is that
What was in the Supreme Court, Steve? Was it 9-0?
Yes, there's a 9-0
In our favor.
in our favor against the district court ruling, saying that no district court has the power to compel the foreign policy function of the United States. As Pam said, the ruling solely stated that if this individual at El Salvador's sole discretion was sent back to our country, that we could deport him a second time.
well,
No version of this legally ends up with him ever living here because he is a citizen of El Salvador. That is the president of El Salvador. Your questions about it per the court can only be directed to him.
I asked.
¿Se lo liberaría, Presidente Bukele?
Can President Bukele weigh in on this? Do you plan to return him?
Well, I'm also not suggesting that I smuggle a terrorist into the United States, right?
They told us
How can I return him to the United States? Like, I smuggle him to the United States, or what do I do? Of course, I'm not going to do it.
And I just wanted to add a commentary. I don't know if you guys ever watched Lefties Losing It with Rita Panahi. And she has Kosha Gata on there a lot, and Kosha is amazing. So what Kosha said about Caitlin Collins was, she was like, she reminded me of a robot that the software update was just not happening like it should, and because she just kept, in that same monotone voice, saying the same thing, asking the same question. Anyway, let's continue on.
It's like, the question is preposterous. How can I smuggle a terrorist into the United States? I don't have the power to return him to the United States.
No, listen.
You're releasing inside El Salvador. Yeah, but I'm not releasing. We're not very fond of releasing terrorists into our country. We just turned the murder capital of the world into the safest country of the Western Hemisphere, and you want us to go back into the releasing criminals so we can go back to being the murder capital of the world? No, that's not going to happen.
Well, they'd love to have a criminal, released into our
These are sick people.
That's a fascinating.
They would love it.
Yeah.
They're sick. These are sick people. Mark, do you have something to say about
Yeah, Stephen outlined it. I don't understand what the confusion is. This individual is a citizen of El Salvador. He was illegally in the United States and was returned to his country. That's where you deport people, back to their country of origin, except for Venezuela that wasn't refusing to take people back, or places like that. I can tell you this, Mr. President. No, the foreign policy of the United States is conducted by the President of the United States, not by a court. And no court in the United States has a right to conduct the foreign policy of the United States. It's that simple. End of story.
And that's what the Supreme Court held, by the way. That's Marco's point. The Supreme Court said exactly what Marco said, that no court has the authority to compel the foreign policy function of the United States. We want a case.
No court has the authority. Let's play that one more time, you guys.
Not by a court. And no court in the United States has a right to conduct the foreign policy of the United States. It's that simple. End of story.
And that's what the Supreme Court held, by the way. That's Marco's point. The Supreme Court said exactly what Marco said, that no court has the authority to compel the foreign policy function of the United States. We won a case 9-0, and people like CNN are portraying it as a loss, as usual, because they want foreign terrorists in the country who kidnap women and children. But President Trump, his policy is foreign terrorists that are here illegally get expelled from the country, which, by the way, is a 90-10 issue.
Well, Mr. President, you said that if the Supreme Court said someone needed to be returned, that you would abide by that. You said that on Air Force One just a few days ago. And they said that...
That's a valid point. Media coverage can vary widely depending on the context. Investigating who's funding or driving the narrative might reveal more. It's essential to get multiple perspectives to form a balanced view.
I agree, but they refuse to allow that to happen. So whatever. So we're going to jump into this clip, and then I'm going to close this out so we can get this edited up and shot straight out to you guys for your viewing displeasure on this situation.
I saw the comments of President Bukele, and I look forward to meeting with him. I've requested to meet with him. I reached out to the ambassador here to ask to meet while he's here. But I've also made clear if we can't meet here, I do intend to go to El Salvador to discuss the release of this individual who.
So you're going to go all the way to El Salvador for someone who's not an American citizen. Why wasn't he made an American citizen? What was the holdup? Who are you going to blame for that one? This makes no sense.
Was illegally detained.
What?
A Maryland man who's
this
the father
madness.
of 3 in a notorious prison in El Salvador. And I believe the president of El Salvador will recognize why it's important to allow him to return to the United States of America, because it is absolutely unjust and illegal to have this Marylander detained one more day in a notorious prison in El Salvador. Of course, President Trump could have just said, bring him home. Of course, he could have done that. But this is an administration that has lied about Mr. Abrego Garcia, right?
What motivation does the administration have to lie about one man? Like, randomly, they just plucked him out of Maryland and decided, okay, we're just going to focus in on him. I'm not sure about that. What do you guys think? Let me know.
Vice President of the United States tweeted out that he had a criminal record. That was a lie. They're just lying. They've gotten caught lying. They don't want to admit it. And they have an obligation to bring him home. But I will say the president of El Salvador should not now take it upon himself to say that he is detaining him for one day.
All right, let's watch a little bit of this.
When Yeah, we got a variety of things I'd like to go through, but first, Mr. Lynch complained about Mr. Galanis testifying from prison. So I'd like to ask unanimous consent to enter into the record the Department of Justice's own press release announcing the sentencing of the Democrats' witness, Lev Parnas, to 20 months in prison for, among other things, making false statements.
Without objection on Donald Trump's partner. You're
Thank you. Now, Mr. Chairman, we had originally hoped that we'd see a few more witnesses here today. This tape could.
I remember going over convincing our team, our others, to convincing us that we should be providing for loan guarantees. And I went over, I guess, the 12th, 13th time to Kyiv, and I was supposed to announce that there was another $1 billion loan guarantee. And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to the press conference. I said, no, I said, I'm not going to, or we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting $1 billion. I said, you're not getting $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Oh, son of a bitch. Got fired. And they put in place someone who.
Wow. Wow.
I just wanted to put that up there because I do eventually want further efforts made to get Hunter Biden or Mr. Archer here, because we have Joe Biden himself bragging that they got rid of a prosecutor who would have provided his sons.
Right. So if we go back to this news thing right here, right, and I really want you to pay attention to what this man was saying, right? Listen up.
Comments of President Bukele, and I look forward to meeting with them. I've requested to meet with them. I reached out to the ambassador here to ask to meet while he's here. But I've also made clear if we can't meet here, I do intend to go to El Salvador to discuss the release of this individual who is illegally detained, a Maryland man who's the father of 3 in a notorious prison in El Salvador. And I believe the president of El Salvador will recognize why it's important to allow him to return to the United States of America. Because
Okay, listen to this. I think the president of El Salvador will recognize why it's important to return him to the United States. This is important. Listen up.
allow him to return to the United States of America, because it is absolutely unjust and illegal to have this Marylander detained one more day in a notorious prison in El Salvador. Of course, President Trump could have just said, bring him home. Of course, he could have done that. But this is an administration that has lied about Mr. Abrego Garcia, right? The vice president of the United States tweeted out that he had a criminal record. That was a lie. They're just lying. They've gotten caught lying. They don't want to admit it. And they have an obligation to bring him home. But I will say the president of El Salvador should not now take it upon himself to say that he is detaining him for one more day, because that is kidnapping. I understand that the attorney general said that we would provide a plane to bring him home.
Did he just accuse the El Salvadoran president of kidnapping his own citizen?
To bring him home. So all the president of El Salvador has to do now is hand over and release an innocent man and let him come home to his family.
Or what? Or what, sir? What the hell are you going to do? All right. That's all I got today, y'all.
Are you ready to take control of your health and wellness? Introducing Tranont Health Products, a premium line of nutrition and wellness supplements designed to support your body's natural balance. From essential vitamins and minerals to advanced detox formulas, Tramont's products are crafted with the highest quality ingredients to help you feel your best every day. Whether you're looking to boost energy, improve digestion, or support immune health, Tranont has something for everyone. Take the first step toward a healthier you with Tranont. Visit www.tranont.com/Regina Cannell to learn more and start your wellness journey today.
Legend.
What?
They say they real recognize this might take a second.
Madness.
I feel niggas vulnerable, it's like they ain't protected. They hear your style and jot it down, and so I can't respect it. It's just me trying to bridge to get that part I don't connect with. I mean, that's word up to my right on that internet shit. Information a double-edged, but we'll get into that shit. Mr. Thermometer, I'm quick to check your temperature, bitch. Who gon' follow him? They say they try to censor my shit. And the problem was, I don't know and don't give a shit. Who the super villain, the anti-hero brother that you was feeling? Milk him for what it's worth and then